and welcome back to That's a Wrap. Now, today I'd like to go on a bit of a journey. I'd like to call in all of my millennials, preferably my late 90s babies, 95 and on, but this is an equal opportunity channel. Join me as we take a moment to reflect on relatively simpler times. Let's say you're in second or third grade and it's been a pretty rough day. Mrs. Walker gave you back yesterday's test and you've misspelled half of your words for the week. There was no chocolate milk to wash down those dry chicken nuggets with, and there's no way you're drinking from that dreaded water fountain. You have to explain to your mom why there's a few random spitballs in your hair because DeMarcus, who clearly has a crush on you, wasn't taught how to properly process and communicate his feelings. All you want to do is go home and tune out with some evening cartoons. The remote is in your hand. It's Disney Channel's golden era, and your favorite theme song comes on. What do you hear, 90s baby? Tell me, what do you hear?
The Proud Family. What?
You realize Penny fails tests and has boy problems too, right? And if only for 30 minutes, your day doesn't feel so bad anymore. Representation matters. By now, many of us understand how integral it is that Black women and femmes of all ages get to see and identify with popular fictional characters. American animation's extensive history is brimming with anti-Black imagery and has produced some of the earliest, most stereotypical representations of Black women and girls to date. It wasn't until much later when we became familiar with more nuanced characters, beginning in the 70s with Valerie from Josie and the Pussycats, Shayna Elmsford from Jem and the Holograms in the 80s, and Storm from X-Men, the animated series in the 90s. Since then, there have been a number of beloved Black women and girls in animation, as well as voice actresses who surely left their mark on the industry. Cree Summer, Kyla Pratt, Regina King, Eartha Kitt, Estelle, and Anika Noni Rose, just to name a few. But especially when these roles are so far and few in between, it becomes that much more important to hold the animation industry at large accountable for its erasure of Black women both on and off screen. Amid this current period of global unrest, the entertainment world and its stars have been forced to reckon with the ways in which Hollywood and pop culture have always and continue to be agents of systemic racism.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
Open your purse!
After 3 seasons voicing the character of Missy, a young biracial girl on Netflix's hit show Big Mouth, Jenny Slate recently announced her decision to step down from the role. I reasoned with myself that it was permissible for me to play Missy because her mom is Jewish and white, as am I. But Missy is also Black, and Black characters on an animated show should be played by Black people. Ending my portrayal of Missy is one step in a lifelong process of uncovering the racism in my actions. Actress Kristen Bell soon follows suit, resigning from the role of Molly on Apple Plus's Central Park. Kristen, along with the entire creative team, recognizes that the casting of the character Molly is a chance to get representation right, to cast a Black or mixed-race actress and give Molly a voice that resonates with all of the nuance and experiences of the character as we've drawn her. Moving forward, both characters will be replaced by Black voice actresses. Folks on Twitter had lots to say on the subject. Many applauded Slate and Bell for their courage and sacrifice because, of course, white folks deserve praise for finally using their privilege in ways that serve others, right? Then, of course, there was the "Don't their white sides matter?" and "Cartoons aren't real, it's just make-believe" crowd. The same crowd that so often rages whenever a John Boyega or Halle Bailey pose a direct threat to the white imagination. Others tried justifying the casting failure by wearing out the names of male voice actors like James Earl Jones and Phil Lamar, who voiced some of the most iconic characters in cinematic history. An argument that, in and of itself, lacks any nuanced understanding of one's lived experience at the intersections of both blackness and womanhood, and how said experience exponentially complicates the ability for black women and femmes to navigate larger institutions of privilege and oppression, i.e., Hollywood.
What's not clicking? What's not clicking?
Exhausting is what it is to constantly have to justify why black women who are significantly underrepresented in the animation world should be paid for their likeness. And despite the overall lack of available roles, there certainly isn't any lack of talent. Kerry Washington, Yvette Nicole Brown, Jerrica Hinton, and Reagan Gomez are just a few who've plugged themselves as being open to more voice acting work. Folks even suggested casting relatively newer celebs like Ari Lennox and Lala Milan for the roles. But what about the talent in limbo? The ones who've yet to be discovered or even provided the opportunity to get their foot in the door. Vice reports that as of 2015, 60% of animation students were women, yet men made up almost 80% of animators in the workforce. Representation is even lower for women of color working in animation who are in less production roles than their white counterparts. On all levels, from the classroom to the executive plane, there are scarce resources available to black women in animation. And because we live in a job market where networking is everything, how can we expect the gatekeepers to be held accountable for the failure to actively diversify the industry? There should be no scenario, animated or not, in which white women are compensated for portraying women of color. I don't even want to think about how many years' worth of paychecks out of the pockets of black women this amounts to. Pay black women. It's as simple as that. Because honestly, we do everything better anyways. Out of necessity, as a mode of survival. There's also just a level of authenticity automatically lost when characters aren't voiced by a person who can speak to those specific experiences. From Penny Proud to Princess Tiana, there's no arguing that the best and most beloved black women animated characters have been voiced by black women. It's safe to say that those days of minstrel-esque animated figures are long gone, but there's still such a long way to go. In better news, the team over at Big Mouth has come through on their promise to hire a black voice actress, as was confirmed by comedian Ayo Adibri on Twitter this week. As of this year, Karen Rupert Tolliver is the first black woman to be awarded an Oscar in the animation category for the short film Hair Love, and there's currently a series in the works that'll soon premiere on HBO Max.
We have a firm belief that representation matters deeply. Especially in cartoons, because in cartoons, that's when we first see our movies, and it's how we shape our lives and think about how we see the world.
A reboot of The Proud Family is in the works over at Disney+, featuring key original cast members and a new teenage activist character named Maya, who'll be voiced by Keke Palmer. And finally, back in 2018, there was an incident where some animators at Disney had altered Princess Tiana's features in a promotional video. Because yes, as if Disney's first black princess spending over half the movie as a frog wasn't bad enough already. Even animated black girls are subjected to colorism and texturism. The campaign was of course pulled down once Black Twitter caught wind of it, and in the end, Tiana looked a bit more like herself. Cut to 2020 and, thanks to black women, Disney theme parks announced plans to repurpose Splash Mountain as a Princess Tiana themed attraction. And no, she won't be featured as a frog. For those who may not know, Splash Mountain is loosely based on the 1946 film Song of the South that features racist iconography, to say the least. These are all major accomplishments that really speak to the power of representation, especially in terms of Disneyland. I've never been much of a fan myself because even the one time that I did visit as a kid, I remember being so unimpressed running into the Cinderellas and the Snow Whites of the park. I'm happy for the little black girls who actually see themselves reflected in this new attraction. And on a much larger systemic scale, I'm hopeful that Black women and femmes in the animation world will be afforded the roles, resources, and compensation that they deserve. Because without them, there would have been no icons like Susie Carmichael or Jodie Landon to get me through the nightmare that was middle school. That's a wrap, y'all. Thank you all for watching. Let us know what you think down below. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Let's talk later. All right. Bye.